is what this is really all about. And some of your listeners will probably be slightly confused. This is a case of
suicides, isn't it?
this is about a large-scale series of very aggressive tax avoidance schemes in which, instead of paying people in the normal way that probably you and I might be paid, i.e. PAYE, we pay our tax, the employer pays the tax. This is me saying to you, I'll tell you what, I'll do it by way of a loan. We'll send the loan out offshore to a low or zero tax jurisdiction, Cayman's or somewhere. We'll bring the loan back into the UK. You will receive the loan, and because it's a loan, not income, would assume that there's no tax to be paid, so the tax gets avoided, and that's not right.
No, I agree. I'm not seeking to defend
What if you agree?
Because seven people have taken their lives. That's the number that jumps out at me, Mr. Stride. 7 lives gone as a result of... I'm just suggesting perhaps this Wednesday, could there not be an expression of leniency to these, not these individuals, but others? We don't want any more, do we?
Well, as I say, this is
more time. I'm not seeking to defend illegality.
Well, the HMRC has time to pay arrangements they enter into with those who owe money that they should have paid in the first place. They have very generous time to pay arrangements. They've also said that they won't, for example, require somebody to sell their primary residence in order to settle the NHS. There's all sorts of easements that are being brought in. But the fundamental point, Nick, is that, and I know this, nobody likes to have to pay tax, but at the end of the day, we should all be on the same basis. And people listening who are hearing about this scheme.
I'm just seeking to any poor individual, any poor soul with
I'm not saying it's illegal.
We won't want any more of these, do we? We want everyone to come to an amicable resolution with HMRC. That's what I'm seeking to do.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely right. Part of the problem is this has dragged on, and campaigners have fought this. There have therefore been delays in settling, and people have ended up, I think, and indeed people even recently out there promoting these kind of schemes. And this is the problem. Unless you have the same level playing field for everybody, and it's fair for everybody, more and more of these things happen, and more lives, tragically, get blighted by getting lured into these schemes that don't work. And when the HMRC comes across them, I think it has a duty as a sensible tax authority to clamp down on aggressive tax avoidance. And most of your listeners would feel that.
Grateful for your time, Conservative MP and Chair of the Treasury Select Committee on LBC. A little bit late to the news, 2 minutes after 8 headlines. Simon Conway.
On Global Player and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's LBC. From Global's newsroom at 8 o'clock, the first cases of a new coronavirus variant, which originated in the Brazilian city of Manaus, have been identified in the UK. Health officials say there are 2 in South Gloucestershire and a further 3 in the northeast of Scotland, but the whereabouts of a 3rd case in England isn't known, as the person didn't complete their test form last month. Public Health England advisor Dr. Susan Hopkins said she hopes they've managed to contain the cases.
We've been asking people who've returned from travel since the 15th of January from Brazil to isolate. And we know that these cases that we have identified and have spoken to have done that. And so we hope that there isn't any further spread, and that that's the reason for quarantine for 10 days on return from overseas.
The Chancellor will provide more money for the UK's COVID vaccine rollouts to help give every adult a first dose by the end of July. Rishi Sunak will detail the £1.65 billion of extra funding in Wednesday's budget. More than 20 million people across Britain have now received a vaccine.
Come on down, my down. Shut it! No. I've got to smoke, mate. Got to smoke. All right, mate. Ta-ta. All right, buddy.
There's so much more to be celebrated
In the city, the FTSE 100 is reopening at 64.83 after closing down 168 points on Friday. The pound buys $1.39 and €1.15. And the weather mostly dry and becoming sunny for many. A foggy start in places, and it will stay cloudy and cold in some eastern and central areas, a high of 12 degrees. From Global's newsroom, I'm Simon Conway.
Growing a small business is a challenge. Whether you sell healthy gourmet sandwiches or vintage t-shirts for every occasion, Square has made it easy to sell anywhere with tools like an online store with pickup, delivery and shipping, and contactless hardware for taking payments in person, so you can open up more ways of reaching customers and getting paid. Learn more at square.com/UK. Square Up Europe Limited is regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. Terms and conditions apply.
LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
5 minutes after 8 on Monday, March the 1st. Coming up in this hour, around a quarter of frontline NHS staff in London, including doctors and nurses, won't take the COVID jab. Government figures. Many from the BAME says government figures. Will give you more details, of course. Ask why. The hunt for that Brazilian strain. We've got the Vaccines Minister Nadhim Zahawi with us later in this hour. Why didn't they open those hotels earlier? And how come someone slipped through, man or woman, by not filling in those forms correctly? Plus rumblings of strike action in a week's time, indeed today. What's the time? Yes, about now your children possibly will be going through the school gates in some instances for the first time in months. But hang on a second. There's a rumbling of strike action. We'll give you more details on that. And the impact of Brexit. The parcel's in the post. But it has been for 2 months, as also wine supplies, now you're worried, wine stocks and supplies from European countries hit badly.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC.
On that subject, having just said that, a part of my weekend this weekend was to go shopping. You're allowed to go shopping. And I went to a wine warehouse, Majestic. I'm sure others are available. I don't. There's Naked Wines, isn't there? And various others. Sunday Times Wine Club, Telegraph Wine Club. It was like there's not anything left. My particular tipple of choice. I said to the young man, "Where's it gone?" I just said it's a Rioja. Where's that? All gone. There's a lot stuck at Dover. Well, that's no damn good. I'm going to drive down there. So I wonder if you, like me, Brexit is starting to bite. I can't get the Rioja. This could be hell. We might have to go to Argentinian Malbec at this rate. Oh, God, no. How will he cope? On to other matters. Now, if you were, as I learned last week, when I went through the first class South Lewisham Health Centre in Canford for my vaccination, completely and utterly didn't jump in any way, shape or form. You go on that NHS app, you put in your name, your date of birth, your doctor's surgery, bang, yes, here you are, make your appointment, and then all little circles come up and you tick one of them, or, as one of my colleagues discovered, no, you're not eligible. And then I discovered there was a young woman working there, goodness me, younger than my children, so she's probably in her early 20s, mid-20s perhaps. And I said, and she said, oh yeah, we got vaccinated very early. Well, quite right too, because obviously was it forward-facing, people-facing, I don't know what it's called. Can you understand why anybody in the NHS would not have it, unless they had some rare health condition that the injection of the vaccine would kill them or something? Why is that? This is, as an investigation shows, to inoculate health workers has stalled. This is due to vaccine hesitancy particularly, and we have spoken about this before. AME staff with the very representation in London, 41,000 frontline healthcare workers, that includes cleaners, porters, lab staff, have not had the jab in London alone. That's 24%, let's call it 25, that's 1 in 4. So imagine going to a hospital. I hope you don't have to. Well, unless it's good news. Of course, you could have had a baby, which is fantastic, or successful surgery. But imagine 1 in 4 of the people you meet have not had the jab. This puts London dramatically behind the rest of the country, with only 6% of staff across England's other 6 regions failing to take up the vaccine. So why the take-up so poor in London? So we speak to someone who's a GP in London. Azim Majid is a professor, head of the Department of Primary Care and Public Health at Imperial College, and as I say, a GP. Okay, sir, Professor, why and what is to be done about this? Good morning.
Good morning, Nick. As you mentioned, this is very concerning, the fact that so many NHS staff in London have not had their COVID vaccination. When people are asked, there are a number of reasons they give for their concerns about the vaccination. These include concerns about the long-term and short-term side effects, lack of data on the long-term effects. These are new vaccines. The fact that people don't see themselves as being at risk from COVID-19, and also the speed at which these vaccines were developed. They were developed very quickly, in less than a year, whereas vaccines normally take much longer than that to develop. I think all those concerns can be addressed. There are good answers to all those. We are working hard to try to address these, this lack of uptake among some groups, which, as you mentioned, is a risk to not just themselves but their patients as well.
You've written an article about this. You actually break down some of the BAME categories. Am I right in saying that some of the biggest holdouts, if that's the correct expression, seem to be among elderly black people? Is that correct?
That's correct, yes. So we find that the greatest reluctance to get vaccinated amongst the black community, older black people, and also black NHS staff as well, with lower rates amongst other groups, and amongst groups like Indians and Chinese. Uptake is quite high. There's also strong link with education as well and income levels. So if people are better educated and have higher income levels, they're also more likely to get vaccinated as well.
Can you understand someone working on the front line, Professor, who would not have the jab?
Well, as a professor of public health, to me it's quite strange. I had my vaccine in January.
I bet,
so
yeah.
To me, it just seems very odd because it's not just yourself you're protecting. It's people you come in contact with as well, in particular patients, many of whom will be elderly and vulnerable and at risk of serious disease and death if they do contract COVID-19. So it does seem very strange, but people have got these concerns. I think we have to keep on working with those groups through education, dialogue, counselling to really get them to try to take up these vaccines.
And is it fear? Is there one overriding aspect that keeps reappearing as to what... Professor?
Yeah, the most common reason given is concern about the side effects, whether those are short-term side effects or long-term. I mean, to some extent, the long-term side effects we don't know about because these are new vaccines. But based on the experience we've had so far, by in the UK, we've given over 10 million people these vaccines, and many more globally have had the vaccines. So far, the side effects have been very, very rare. And the positive effects have been very good. So we're now seeing reductions of 90% in things like admissions to hospital when people are being vaccinated. So, we are getting very strong signals that these are very safe vaccines and highly effective in routine clinical use.
Do we think that the Queen's historic intervention last week, Professor, where she said people, quotes, ought to think about other people rather than themselves, do you think that might help?
Yeah, I think that's definitely helped. So quite a few people I've spoken to have said they were very encouraged by the Queen getting vaccinated, and also her advice that it's not just about yourself, it's about your wider community as well. So I'm very pleased the Queen got vaccinated and put out that very positive public health message.
Be well, look after yourself, your family and all your colleagues. Thank you. Azim Majid, you're Professor and Head of Department of Primary Care and Public Health at Imperial College, and you're a GP practicing in London, where there is a shocking 25% of NHS staff not getting the jab. Let's bring into the conversation Susan Nickey, Professor and Health Psychologist and Director of the Centre for Behaviour Change at UCL, speaking in a personal capacity but is part of a subgroup of SAGE. Again, maybe I could ask you, how would you address a member of NHS staff who had reservations or indeed said simply no? What would you say, Professor? Good morning.
Good morning. The first thing is to find out what the reservations are. As the last speaker said, they're often to do with side effects, long-term safety, the same issues as many others, but also to ensure that issues of trust and confidence are addressed. I mean, in the health service, especially in London, we know that there is a high percentage of people on low incomes, and there's also a high percentage of people from black and ethnic minority communities. So you also have a range of cultural and religious
how does a low income mean you don't want the jab?
Well, I don't know. How one
That's what you said.
goes to the other. What we know.
Well, it doesn't mean, but that's nonsense.
Hold on, can I?
Well, it's nonsense, isn't it?
If you ask a question, I'll answer it.
Well, so how come a low income? That's what you said. I just can't work out.
Okay, I should explain. What we know, and actually the figures were given at the Independent SAGE conference on Friday, is that those on low income are much less likely to take up the vaccination. And what I'm saying is, in the health service, we've got people on low income. So, that group needs to have more investment and resources put into understanding what the problems are.
It's my fault. I'm still not clear why someone on a low income won't want the vaccination.
Well, one of the reasons we know, I mean, the barriers are several. You know, as I said, some of it's low trust and confidence in the vaccine efficacy. Lower perception of risk. Some of it's inconvenience, so access barriers like the location of vaccine delivery, time and distance to access the vaccine. All I'm telling
when
you
I got mine, there were 3 places within 1.1 miles I could go to. 3.
So what I'm telling you is the results of research looking into this, led by Professor Kamlesh Kunti, who's also a GP, bringing all the research evidence together. So there'll be various reasons.
It's Professor Kunti who said that he had a Muslim individual come in today, wasn't sure about it. We sat for 15 to 20 minutes and I think I convinced him. That's great, but we haven't got time for professors to sit for 20 minutes with everybody trying to talk them into it, have we, Professor?
There's also another study just done recently, which was GPs phoning up those people who haven't been vaccinated, and they got a 61% increase in uptake as a result of phoning around. So I think that's an example where you have a trusted person phoning around its contact.
It really does. I sell it in marketing wise, I don't mean sell it financially. Do you know what I mean? This is not just makes you safe, it makes, if you've got elderly relatives, safe, it makes I cannot see why it's such a hard sell to it.
Well, in some communities there's been a history of structural institutional racism and discrimination, and that has left this kind of sense of distrust of establishment and of, sadly, sort of health services too in some cases.
If these people, God forbid, they fall sick, they'll want the NHS to look after them then. That distrust evaporates pretty quickly then, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and that's a sort of rational way of looking at it. But I think what I'm trying to get across is that some of these fears and concerns are deep-seated, long-standing, quite emotional. But what I'm also saying is that these can be turned around if people are listened to and engaged with. And
what's happened in the case of the professor you mentioned, Kamlesh Kunti, but we can't have professors spending 20 minutes per fact. I would have thought. Grateful for your input. Thank you. Susan Nickey is professor and health psychologist, director of the Centre for Behaviour Change at UCL, sitting on a behavioural subgroup of SAGE, but speaking independently. A little late to those LBC News headlines. We'll come to your reactions on this. 8:17 now. Some comment.
Public health officials are trying to track down one of the first confirmed cases of the Brazilian variant of COVID-19 in the UK. The Chancellor Rishi Sunak will confirm more funding for Britain's vaccine rollout in Wednesday's budget. And Donald Trump has hinted he could run for president again at the next, but has dismissed the idea he could set up a new party. The weather mostly.
And that's for the emergency works. Also, for those who need to make a journey in South Yorkshire, there are queues on the A1M southbound from junction 36 at Doncaster to 35 at the M18 because of the roadworks, and in Greater Manchester, very slow on the A6 both ways to Little Holtham.
This is LBC.
I'm pledging a gift to Cancer Research UK.
We need to keep funding this crucial research. To keep pushing these boundaries forwards, we need those pledges.
Gifts in wills fund over a third of Cancer Research UK's life-saving research. Create your will with our free will service. Our expert legal partners can guide you through writing or updating your will. Call 0300 123 7733 or visit cruk.org/free will service. Together we will beat cancer. T's and C's apply. See website for details.
Call Nick Ferrari now. 0345 6060 973 LBC.
We all have our own personal relationship with money, how we spend, save and budget, our goals and dreams for the future. This is your moneyverse, and it's as unique as you are. And the Barclays app can help you master it. It helps you see how you're spending and any upcoming scheduled payments, so you can make a clear plan for your money. Master your moneyverse and make money work for you. Barclays. You need to be 16 or over to use the app. T's T's and C's apply.
Are you the owner of fine wines or rare whiskies? You could sell them effortlessly at thelondonwineseller.com. With hundreds of 5-star reviews on Google, ask for a valuation. We'll get back with a cash offer you'll love. No waiting for brokers or auctions. The London Wine Cellar guarantee to beat any competitor's cash offer with immediate payment terms, conditions and guarantee information on our website. From one special bottle to an investment portfolio, look no further. Visit thelondonwineseller.com.
Good morning to the sausage and egg McMuffiners and hash brown in the middlers, rise and shine red or brown sauce debaters, and latte one sugar drinkers. And hello to those who drive through. Our delicious breakfast is ready. Are you? Breakfast at McDonald's. Truly delicious. Served until 11 a.m. Subject to participating restaurants' opening hours and menu choices.
This is a new announcement by TTP Financial Compensation. Following our success assisting clients of the MI Group and Lincoln Financial Group, we're extending our claims management service to anyone who purchased a freestanding AVC pension following advice from any insurance company or bank between 1988 and 1996. Text TTP to 60075. We can find out if you qualify even if you no longer have the policy or policy details. Don't delay, as time limits may apply. Text TTP to 60075. It is possible to present a claim yourself for free to the firm concerned or through the Financial Ombudsman Service.
At 3, we know there's some things only business owners can do, like expertly juggling being the CEO, head of sales, and decoder of those 2 a.m. ideas on your phone.
Now that's an interesting idea.
But what we can do is promise your business a network with 99% UK coverage at a price that beats our biggest competitors. Search 3 Business Price Promise.
Voice coverage by population Jan 31. Our price promise beats a direct business code from E, Vodafone or OT for mobile and SIM-only plans. Terms apply. c3.co.uk.
Nick Ferrari and Breakfast on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
I cannot for the life of me work out why. Let's say again with the caveat, unless whatever's in the vaccine is going to kill you, you wouldn't want it. Martin and Finchley, what can you... Oh, I'm so sorry, Frimley. That's totally my fault. I misread that. Martin and Frimley, you're on the radio. Good morning.
Good morning, Nick,
Yes,
sir. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not bad. A bit puzzled about this one. What about you?
Well, what it is, the reason I rang in is I can't mention a hospital apparently, but I live very, very close to a hospital, very close indeed.
Okay.
And I've got 2 lodgers and my wife who they both work at the hospital, yeah? Now, the situation is when they were called for their vaccines, they were asked to go to another hospital, which is, well, by the time you've driven there and parked and all the rest of it, probably about an hour's drive.
You're right, okay. Yeah,
now,
yeah.
What's happened is my wife and others have said that a lot of them don't have cars, because they don't own a lot of them,
Yes, of
and they
course.
don't have the car to get up there, and a lot of them are not taking up the vaccine, not because they don't want it, but they're just not prepared to make that kind of journey.
What?
Oh,
I'm sorry. I can't have any sympathy, mate.
Yeah. So just to put it into context, when I was called up for my vaccine, it was 5-minute drive away.
Mm-hmm.
So I just sort of, I know you're saying, I'm not defending anybody. I'm just saying that's possibly one of the reasons.
I'm sorry. I've never heard. I'm not attacking you, Martin, but you can't be prepared to drive an hour.
It's not for me to say whether what they're doing is right or wrong, or whether it's an excuse. I'm just.
I hear you there, but for most NHS, I would imagine they can do. If they're in a hospital, they can do it in their hospital, right?
No, not in this particular.
Well, I think you're in Surrey, aren't you? Friendly is Friendly in the
Well, as I say, I've been told not to mention.
Is it in a London borough? Is it in a London borough? Is it in a London borough?
No, it's not.
Right. Then listen. It's not actually part of the. I'm very interested in your story. You as you say, you don't agree with them not travelling an hour, do you?
No. I mean, I think everybody needs to get it done, but I'm just saying that I've heard that a lot of them are making the excuse that.
Right. Well, I'm glad you and I both agree on an excuse, because it's a pitiful excuse. And I mean, I'm looking at one of my colleagues, Martin, thank you. If you were told you had to drive an hour this afternoon to get the vaccine, would you be prepared to do? Yeah, in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. I mean, I think I drive to. I don't care. I go to Dover and I pick up a crate of wine while I was at it, and that's a good hour and a half probably from me. Actually, probably isn't with the traffic on the road at the moment. I don't know how long it took me. But of course you would, Martin. Thank you, Helen and Barnet. You're on the radio. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes.
I was very grateful to get my vaccine, but I just wanted to comment something on Susan Mackey said about.
It's actually Mickey, but yeah, go ahead.
Mickey, sorry.
No, that's my job. No, it's not. You know.
Yeah. She said that GPs are phoning around to try and persuade people to have the vaccine. I actually phoned my GP for an appointment last week and was told that there was nothing for 2 days.
Right.
So if they're too busy to talk to their own patients because they're trying to persuade people to take the vaccine, there's something very wrong going on.
Do you think they should be having to do that? Shouldn't they actually?
Absolutely not.
No, I agree.
I just can't understand the mentality of these people. But
did you say?
I'm so grateful.
Yeah, you've had yours, have you? By the way?
I had mine 5.5 weeks ago.
Oh my word! Wow.
Yes.
Okay. And how? Do you mind my asking how far you had to travel?
About 5-10 minutes in the car.
Okay, nothing, is it? Would you have travelled an hour?
Absolutely. I know people who did.
Yeah. Thank you, Helen. Thank you. What is the matter with these people? I know, Martin, you didn't say that. I appreciate you didn't say that, Martin, and it's other people who've said, oh, it's an hour's drive. Martin, I know that's right. It's an hour's drive to save your life and possibly start seeing relatives, children, grandchildren, friends, family, whatever, whoever you want to see, lovers, partners, mistresses, I don't care. An hour. Okay, Helen, thank you. Should we look at other matters? Extraordinary story. In one of the newspapers are focusing on one town. Let me get these figures right. This is in Maidstone in Kent. Collection figures for rubbish in that particular town, isn't it? Yes, it's not a city town. Risen by 250% in 12 months. 1,950 tons of roadside litter. My goodness. At a cost of £1.2 million. Is that just in Maidstone? I mean, it's a big town, but my goodness. Hardly surprising then that Kent County Council is to turn to technology with litter cameras. It's the first pilot scheme in the country to fine motorists throwing litter from their cars. Fines will start at £90 and then, if unpaid, after 15 days to £120. Okay, so how will these litter cams work? Andrew Kemp is CEO of Litter Cam. Just before we get into how your technology works, Mr. Kemp, I've talked a little bit about Kent. If we look at the whole of the country, similar problems being experienced nationwide. Good morning.
Morning. Yes, there are some locations in the country that have got really quite heavily densely littered stretches of road. Two in particular, the A27 was called out in that article yesterday.
Is that the Wiltshire Road I read about? Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I read about it.
Routinely heavily littered. Also the M42, which goes from the Midlands heading up towards the M1. I was 25 to 30 miles just with. But
why do you suppose that is this people getting more litter bugs? We will talk about your technology, but what do you suppose is behind this?
It's a really good question. So I think there's a couple of things that are going on here. One, I think it's a conscious act of people littering at certain locations, and others are operators of vehicles where their load hasn't been properly secured, where you're getting larger objects, scaffolding covers, plastic bags and the like, that are a real eyesore, quite frankly.
Okay, let's talk about it then. How does the litter cam work?
So we've got a range of different products that all are designed to analyse CCTV images, and the product that was focused on the article yesterday is designed to detect when the action of littering from a vehicle happens. We then pass that suspected footage across to a local authority that has the powers to enforce and issue a penalty to the registered keeper of a vehicle.
So these are additional cameras, or you're using existing cameras?
It can be either. absolutely either, Nick. From our perspective, if you've got authorities in London, as an example, that have got a wide range of CCTV in existence already, we can analyse that footage. All we need is a clear image. So there's not necessarily a need to install new CCTV cameras.
Okay. Of course, and I know this is tackled because I read the piece yesterday. What about if it's the passenger who threw out the crisp packet, not me, the driver? What happens then?
Sure. So the penalty will go to the registered keeper. That's sort of set down in the regulations, and it'll then be between the registered keeper and the passenger to have a few questions when the penalty comes through.
Okay. And so if there's an area that is being particularly blind, because I'm thinking, presumably you can piggyback off the motorway cameras, can you? On main roads, is that right?
While there's potential there, I think it would be unlikely. So those cameras have been installed for a purpose that is different to look at if there's any safety issue on the motorway.
Right.
If we're looking at the offence of littering from vehicles on a motorway setting, I think the majority of that will happen on slip roads where people are reducing their speed, and anything that may have been in their car for a short period of time will probably go out the window.
So Kent trial starts, I think I'm right, in April. Where else might be starting across the country, Mr. Kent?
We've got some advanced discussions happening with Wigan in Lancashire, and also discussions with Sheffield in South Yorkshire.
All right. Andrew Kemp is CEO of LitterCam, developing this technology. Thank you for that. You'll have views on that, particularly perhaps you've seen a high amount of litter. We'll come back to our conversation about